Okay, so today we're going to talk about gaming memories growing up.
See,
Let's go back.
my earliest gaming memory probably was going to a neighbor's house and he had a Super Nintendo and
Was that
seeing
Colin?
seeing him play it. He wasn't really into it, and I mean, I always saw like Super Nintendo, like Super Mario World on Super Nintendo. They used to have it like you would go to the mall and at Children's Place in the mall, they'd have like a Super Nintendo there and stuff, and they would have Super Mario World. Well, for whatever reason, when I was a kid, I always wanted to try to play it and stuff, but it was like I was just a kid, so it just didn't. It's just another type of toy that was just around, but we never really had anything like that. I didn't really know about systems or anything like that until like N64, really.
Yeah, I think it's the same for me because I'm even surprised you remembered Super Nintendo because I don't remember anything. I mean, I was born in '92. I'm trying to remember
You remember Sega Genesis?
Yeah, I remember Sega Genesis when we were a few years old. That might have been one of the earlier ones as well. One of our neighbors had a Sega Genesis and a Sega CD. We would go over there and play like Sonic 3D Blast. I'd have to look up to see if that was before Game Boy had come out though. I remember we were at summer camp in the village and somebody had an OG Game Boy, but I think it was by the time Color was already out. But I remember seeing that and be like, whoa, that's really big because the original Game Boy was super big. I think that would probably be it. And then basically for us, as far as like a console or a handheld or anything like that, we had our mom's friend's kid had like this Atari computer, which later I found out was called, I believe it's the Atari 400 computer. It was a legitimate computer that had like these press buttons, like the keyboard was part of the computer itself, and it just I think it was actually meant to like program your own games, but it had cartridges, and a lot of the games that I think were on like 2600 were also on this Atari 400. But you should look into it if you've never heard of it. It's pretty obscure. It's not like valuable, but it's just so uncommon that no one.
Valuable?
Yeah, I don't think it's that valuable. I was telling Dad actually, I was looking to try to get one like an Atari 400, but if you remember. Well, it was pretty big and it didn't really work. And I think it wasn't not working because it was a bad console, like our version of it. I think it was just bad in general. Like, and it was already like, so by the time we had it, like, let's say that was like 96 or 97. I don't even know. It had come out in 80.
Years.
Yeah, exactly. It was probably came out in like 80 something, right? 82 or 85 or whatever. So that was pretty cool though. And it was cool for us because we didn't really have any video games in our house. Like the only thing we had seen is at neighbors' houses or like my brother said in stores, and we did have like the original Donkey Kong.
I can't remember if I got my Game Boy before that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
I think it was before that.
It's possible. That was definitely the first console we owned for sure. I wanted to just see if we can name off like most of the games we had for Atari. We had Pango, which was a penguin where you pushed around blocks. I might actually put some footage of that here if I can actually find any. That game was a puzzle game, super fun. Yeah, Pango. And then we had like OG Donkey Kong port, which was really fun. Yeah. But we were really bad at it for a while. I remember Corey came over once and like showed us how to play it, and then we were like, oh, or like somebody showed us how to play it, and eventually we started doing better. We had like, was it like Missile Command? No. What was the...
Atlantis?
We couldn't get it to work. Yeah, we had this game Atlantis, and I think it was...
Atlantis worked. Atlantis was like a shooter where you had like a city and you pretty much shot up from there.
But we had some
there was some other
like
game
Missile
that was
Command
some type of
that
simulation that we couldn't figure out.
Yeah, and then I think the only other main one is Wizards of War, which still nobody knows about, and I still want to find... I wish it was like on a collection. I feel like it would be on an Atari collection somewhere on PS2. I should look it up.
Before, maybe.
There was maybe one. Was there one other game that we played? I don't know. Those are the main ones. We pretty much played Pango and Donkey Kong. I think were like the only ones that we were really like. Oh, and Wizards of War. But
we played quite a bit of Miss Pac-Man too.
We had Miss Pac-Man. I don't even remember that. So that was our first experience there, which again was funny because, even if you have an older console when you're younger, I feel like most people had like NES. and we were like over here with an Atari 400, and like literally nobody knew what it was who were alive in that time period. Okay, and then I guess you can start talk about when you got the Game Boy.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably it's either I believe the original red and blue version of Pokemon came out. With
Yeah, it was like right when it came out.
90 or 98, 97, 98.
Yeah, I think it was 97, 98.
Because I was definitely in like third grade, and everyone was talking about Pokemon, but I didn't know what it was. We didn't have cable, so people were watching the anime on TV, or just seeing commercials.
The commercials, I remember the commercial. Remember there was like on the bus there was just like a bunch of the Pokemon, which we just thought were like monsters, and they were like, play Pokemon.
There was definitely like, if a lot of people didn't play Pokemon, they watched the show, and they had like this almost like Pikachu Tamagotchi type thing, and I remember they had a commercial for that where it'd be like Pokemon Pikachu, like they would, and it was like a Tamagotchi, and it was like you had to shake it, so they'd have commercials where like people would be like sitting on washing machines and stuff to play this so people knew about Pokemon from that too, because those commercials used to play all the time. But it was like around that time, and I was, in terms of video games at that point, like I probably played some N64 and stuff at friends' houses or other systems, but we didn't have anything.
Yeah.
And everyone had Pokemon, and there's like on it, one person I know had like an old game. I think the people who did have it at that point had like the
original Game Boy. Yeah.
Because at that point the Game Boy Pocket was out, but it was probably like less people had it.
If I'm not mistaken, the Pocket came out like very close to when Pokemon came out. Maybe it wasn't, but
for anyone who's not familiar with the Game Boy Pocket, it's basically a regular Game Boy, except it's a lot smaller. It has like an adjustable grayscale.
I think it is on the original, but what's different is that the original was more like a green tinted screen, if you remember.
It's more gray.
And yours is gray, yeah, like gray and black.
It is a little green tinted though, but it was like it was basically like the size of like a Game Boy Color.
It was like a little bit less long, and it could fit in your pocket.
And it was pretty flat too, or it was flatter than a Game Boy Color.
Much flatter.
I randomly got one of those for Christmas one year, and like I didn't ask for it, I wasn't expecting it, and I just
Grandpa
got
it for you.
And then
I was gonna say, I think it was probably one of those moments where, knowing Grandpa, he probably like went into a store and was like, what do kids like? And he probably went to a Toys R Us, and they were like, this is the new thing, get this.
Well,
and he bought it for
I think it was either that. I think I also heard that maybe some of the extended family, like maybe like Wayne or somebody, had talked to him and was like, oh, he might like this.
Oh, okay.
Or they like kind of picked it out for him. But anyway, I got one of those, and then I was like, well, okay, but I don't have any games for it. And they were like, well, we can just take you to the store and get you a game for it. And I was like, oh crap. And it was literally like right around when Pokemon was popular, and I wanted to play Pokemon so bad, and I was like, well, we get the red version. I pretty much became a gamer pretty much from that game, because like that was the first game that I just played through, got stuck in, I forget what, the first cave where you need flash, and I didn't have flash, and I got through the tunnel. I got through that whole area without using flash because I was just frustrated and I wanted to get past it, and I didn't know what to do. And I didn't there was no easy way for us to look up like walkthroughs or anything like that at the time.
Yeah, we didn't have a strategy guide or anything like that.
And it wasn't like, I'm sure they do in older, like in newer Pokemon games where you need flash, so it'll be like, well, you can't come in here. But that one was literally like you could go in and you just had to kind of like figure out where, because you could still kind of see yourself, and you could still kind of see the outline if you held it in a certain light, so you could kind of walk around and
and back then too, like you said, you could also change the tint of the game, so you could even try to like cheat a little bit and make it a certain contrast so you could actually kind of see where you're going. But I will say too, I remember it being like right when Pokemon came out, but I think you're right. I think it was actually a little bit later. I would actually be curious to see when Game Boy Pocket
Well, so I think I looked it up because someone was trying to tell me once that Pokemon came out in 1996, but I knew that wasn't true.
No, that's not true.
I know I was in kindergarten in 1996. It was definitely, I remember being in third grade and like the people that I had in my class who had it and stuff like that. So it was at least within the year. Pokemon was pretty much just building up. But yeah, I mean, I pretty much became a gamer after that because it was just like I had also gotten a Bomberman game for, I think it's called Bomberman Adventure or something like that, for the original Game Boy. But yeah, pretty much I was just kind of glued to my Game Boy Pocket, and I wanted to beat Pokemon. I eventually beat the game, and then it was like...
Tell them how you beat the game, the classic kid move. Who was in your team?
Charizard, level 100.
That's all I was asking.
And I don't really remember any of the other Pokemon because he was really the only one that mattered.
I think you like had a Mewtwo, but I can't remember if you got it way later. You probably got it way later.
I think I got Mewtwo after I beat the Elite Four, I want to say. Or no, you know what? I don't. I think in my red version, I eventually got Mewtwo from a trade, but I believe in the original red version, I killed Mewtwo and I did not catch him.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because again, we had no knowledge of like anything at that point.
Right.
I don't know if kids even realized that you could catch Mewtwo back in the day.
I mean, I'm sure some did, but I also think most people, I believe in the first game, you get the Master Ball, and that's meant to be used to catch Mewtwo, or at least a lot of people.
They give it to you like right before you encounter Mewtwo.
And
anyway.
I don't remember what I used. I feel like I used my Master Ball on like Articuno or something. Like I used it because you get it kind of early in the game, and I used it on like a legendary Pokemon.
I was pretty sure. I think you used it on a legendary bird.
It might have been Zapdos. No,
Zapdos. I think.
I feel like Zapdos was pretty early on in the game, though. I don't think I used it on Zapdos. I think I caught him naturally, but I think like the Articuno, I was just like, I don't want to, because it was pretty difficult to catch those.
Yeah.
So I just used a Master Ball. It could have even been Moltres, which would make the most sense, because I remember I was like, oh, why did I waste it on that? And like I feel like Moltres is the most trash of the legendary birds in my opinion, but that definitely pretty much informed like all my gaming from the rest of that. Very like, RPG based.
I was about to say, because once you said that too, I feel the same, because I was obviously playing your games as well. Tell them about Blue version too.
I mean, yeah, so I believe I eventually got Blue version when we got Game Boy Colors. I don't believe it was like the next year, but it was a very year close after that Game Boy Color came out. And I don't remember when I got Blue version, because I think when Game Boy Color came out, I got Silver version.
No, I'm pretty sure you got Blue pretty close. I remember, because I obviously didn't have my Game Boy Color yet. And I remember being kind of mad because you got another Pokemon game and I still couldn't, like, I still didn't have my own. So it might have been like, actually, so you got it was Christmas when you got the Game Boy Pocket, right? It might have been like your birthday next year that you got Blue. Or maybe not. Maybe you randomly got it.
I don't remember when I got it. I feel like it wasn't like a Christmas thing. I vaguely remember getting Blue when I got the Game Boy Color, but I'm pretty sure I got Silver when I got the Game Boy Color. So
no, I think you got it. It definitely was within a year. I feel like when you got Blue.
But back in those days, it was like, it wasn't like today where like, oh, are you gonna get Sun or Moon? It was more like the whole thing, it's you gotta catch them all.
Gotta catch them all. Like, all the kids at school.
I could have been totally satisfied with my red version, except you can only get me out. You can only catch me out in the wild in Blue version and stuff like that. So I eventually got Blue version because I wanted to get all the Pokemon, and I was eventually able to with the help of link cables and you.
Yeah, and you got Mew
other friends,
from Game
and
Shark from our cousin.
Yeah,
from Wayne, I think.
So I have all 151 wherever that game is.
So that was the first memory, and I would basically play whenever you didn't play, but the problem was, I think what happened was I pretty much couldn't play red version. Like if I was gonna play it, I think you told me you can play it, you just can't save, because obviously then if I save,
because you couldn't have multiple
right, so you would just let me like run around and like fight whoever I wanted, and then I would just turn the game off. And then I remember when you got Blue, then finally I was able to kind of like leverage that a little bit, because you did want all 151. So I think at a certain point I let me start Blue over for my own file. I think that's what happened. But we were still using the same Game Boy because we only had one.
I seem to remember getting like the Game Boy Pocket and having Pokemon and being like, this is pretty cool. And then a kid in school being like, you got the Game Boy Color. Look I got this Bomberman game and it's got color. And I'm like, I have a Bomberman game, but it doesn't have color. Like, and then I think it came out pretty soon after that. And then it might have even been...
Okay, so it says 99. It's possible
Right.
we might have had. You got red version for Christmas.
I almost want to say I got blue and silver in the same Christmas.
I think you got that for Christmas, and later on you got more Christmas money from somebody else later down the line. Like if you remember, sometimes we would meet with relatives or something later on. I think you got money and you went out and got it within like a month. At some point, you got blue version. Then the next Christmas, we were gifted by our grandfather. We each got a Game Boy Color, and for some reason they bought us the same color, so we both had the purple one. And I remember they handed them to us, and then we realized that we had a problem, and they were like, oh, just put stickers on them so you can tell them apart or something like that.
I don't really remember it like that. I was just like, okay, like I maybe that was a bigger issue for you, but I was just like, well, so what? They're the same color. Like, I'm just happy I got it.
Okay, well, that's good. Or we definitely.
I remember putting a sticker on mine, but I don't.
We put Pokemon stickers on yours to make it.
I don't think I was ever like, oh, I wish it wasn't the same color. I think there were times where it was like, you're like, well, that's my Game Boy, and it was just like stupid because we just thought
we were
it was
just
whatever,
kids.
but...
I think we were just fighting over whatever anyway.
Right.
Yeah, you seem to think that we got them for Christmas as well, the Pokemon Gold and Silver. I'm not sure about that, but I definitely
do for sure, because I remember playing it and it was like, I remember noticing, because I had played Red so hardcore, that like it'd be like, oh, now in the colored ones, like I remember it being specifically like riding my bike down in one town and like, this looks so much cooler with color than it did.
No, well, I'm just saying, I thought we went into a Toys R Us and bought them or something. Like, I don't remember getting them at the exact same time.
I remember playing Pokemon Christmas Day. With a Game Boy Color in silver version. I definitely did that.
Okay, so yeah, we did that. You had silver, I had gold. We got the carrying cases later too, the old school.
That I feel like that might have been like a birthday thing, or no, I feel like we might have even got that.
That's what I'm saying. And your silver one is over there. I don't know what happened to the gold one. We just went to grab the thing, and so we have the Game Boy Color here, and then Nick goes, "That's my Game Boy Color." So it was definitely a discrepancy.
It's because it's the same exact thing. So you're just like, that's gotta be mine.
That's mine.
Yeah.
For the people that watch the YouTube version, we'll try to explain it. But so what they are is like, they're like a little carrying case that has like plastic on the front, and in the back you had like Lugia,
it's like a pouch,
and Ho.
You can hold your games
it's a pouch, and you can open it up and you could store your like Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance games in there. And we each had the one that went with the game, which was pretty cool, because honestly later on Mom and Dad didn't really coordinate on that kind of stuff, and I'm sure they told, if it was all from Grandpa, I'm sure they coordinated that somehow. So yeah, so we got that, and obviously we traded and we did all that. And so for me, that gold remains my favorite Pokemon to this day. And then when Heart Gold came out, then Heart Gold basically became my favorite because it's just better in my opinion.
I like silver, but red version is still
see, whenever I talk to people, it tends to be like whatever their first experience, and it technically wasn't my first experience, but it was the first one I owned. So
well, I mean, not only that, but it was also like the first game I ever beat, the first game, that type of stuff.
Yeah, and to go back what you said earlier, like we both like RPGs, because again, if you think about it, the first games that we got super into were RPGs because they were Pokemon. Like you got super into Red and Blue, and like I said, I got super into Gold and Silver and whatever. Some other games that we remember getting, I had, what was it, like Rugrats Time Machine or something? And that game was funny.
Rugrats Time Travelers.
Yeah,
I actually recently watched a YouTube video on it where they're talking about it's like a trash game.
It's a really trash game, and it was so bad that like we literally didn't even know how to like beat the first level for a while.
I remember I got pretty far.
No, eventually we figured it out, and we got to like, we could basically beat the game, but it took, I remember, a long time. Like there was literally like,
it was just like a very frustrating game. Like there was just a lot of like gameplay stuff that was just like stupid and like poorly designed.
And it's a licensed game, so of course it's going to be kids, and they're not going to know what's going on.
There's even a level in it where I watched the YouTube video and I got reminded of it, where it was like an Egyptian level, and if you fell down a certain part, you couldn't get back up to the rest of the level, so you couldn't beat the level if you hadn't gotten like a collectible in a certain area and you fell down this hole, because you couldn't get back up to like, so you basically just had to restart, and that game was like password based. So
yeah, we did write down the passwords for sure, but yeah, that game was super annoying. So that was like the other game I had besides Gold, and I think those two games I had those for a while, and then then do you remember the second game you got? You
For
still
Game
had
Boy Color.
Bomberman, which I think Bomberman you could use some color on once you had the color.
I had a couple. I'm trying to think what the big. Wario Land 3.
Wario 3.
That's a big one. I
Still
love that
to this
game.
day, I love that game too. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
I tried to get a complete version of it.
I had it digitally on for the 2DS, the Virtual Shop, and it's still good. There are some things about it that are kind of annoying, especially getting towards some of the like later levels. It's like, yeah, I know this, like, because like every enemy in that game has like a different mechanic of stuff you can do with them.
It was such an innovative game though. Like Wario actually has some cool games, and I really hope that one day they do make Wario Land 5, because once they did 4 on Game Boy Advance, they started doing all the weird ones like Shake It, Wario Shake It, and whatever. So who knows if Wario Land will ever come back. You had Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, that was a pretty cool game. Like it wasn't. It wasn't the most difficult game. It was kind of like a beat 'em up, like side-scrolling beat 'em up, but with some like platforming elements ish. It was pretty fun. It was easy to beat. And then I was like, cool. But I also remember, like, I maybe got it we didn't get games, like, very often. And I remember getting it, like, for my birthday and then beating it super quick. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's something that we need to say, too, is that our parents pretty much would only buy us stuff on our birthdays and Christmas. And pretty much not at all. Especially at this age when we were so young, we didn't get like allowance or anything. Like
no, we got allowance. So
at
like,
that young, I don't know about that.
We got allowance, but it would be like $1 a week or something like that. So it's like, well, then you gotta save up 20 weeks if you want to get a $20 game, but you'd be lucky if it's $20. It's probably more like 30, because I think Game Boy games were like $30 back in the day.
Yeah. I just remembered the next one that I think I got, Donkey Kong Land 2. I remember.
Well, that was like the first. That was, I think you got Donkey Kong Land 2, even though you didn't have a Game Boy.
Are you? No.
I believe.
Maybe they felt bad that I didn't have a Game Boy yet, so they bought me that. And
I definitely feel like that happened, because
that's possible.
I was like, okay, he doesn't, so he can just play my Game Boy. Like, I feel like that prop might have happened. I feel
like we could tell, because I think the game had literally just come out.
No, you know what? That's not what happened. I think you just, like, you might have gotten that for your birthday, like the same year you got Pokemon. They like pick a game and you pick that game.
Right.
Because Game Boy Color had just came out, so there wasn't like a lot of color games you could pick, and it did have a yellow cartridge. So I think you also thought it might have been in color, possibly.
You could see some colors, but it wasn't, or maybe no, actually it wasn't. But yeah, we went to Media Play, which was an old store similar to like FYE.
Is that where you got it from?
Yeah, I got it from Media Play.
Because I remember I got the Pokemon and stuff, Toys R Us.
Yeah, but we were at Media Play for some reason. And again, it was one of those things where, you know, back in the day before internet was super big and all this stuff, it's like, I think we just went, and like Nick said, there weren't that many games, and it was like, this looks cool, like, never played Donkey Kong Land 1, like, doesn't matter, like, let's play Donkey Kong Land 2, like, let's go for it. And what not a lot of people know about those, they're basically Donkey Kong countries, but the levels are actually completely different. So you play as like the same characters, but the levels are all different. And there's this level in that game called Slime Climb. It was insane. It was one of those side-scrolling levels where the water level raises over time, and if you just take too long, you just get enveloped by it and you die. And I remember we just hated that level, because we would restart the game like years later and stuff, and we would always be like, that file's stuck on Slime Climb.
I feel like
I
feel like I got past that level at some point.
No, we did.
I got somewhat far.
There were more Slime Climb related levels.
I remember the level that I mean, I know a lot of people are pretty into like Donkey Kong Country 2, which would be like
that would be the same equivalent,
like alternate universe of Donkey Kong Land 2. But I'm not too familiar with the levels that they would have in that game, because I haven't really played that game very much. But there was a level in Donkey Kong Land 2 where like you had to be the spider who has to like make webs and make platforms, and it was like a slime climb where it had to go up.
Yeah, I think that might have been where we finally got stuck and we're just not able to do it. Because, I think there was a part where you had to platform, you had to create your own platforms, and there were just no other platforms. and you were on a time limit. And I think on the Game Boy was like to use the spider's web, you had to click like start and then select and then click A or something. Like it was like crazy. Like it was, because I remember when we got the spider, we couldn't even figure out how to shoot the web for a while or something like that. But anyway, overall, pretty fun game. I mean, Donkey Kong Land 2 was really cool. The only other game on Game Boy Color that I remember having was Gex 3, which I bought this years later, but this game was notorious in our household as like my favorite game ever. I have no idea why. This game is really bad, but we played it a lot. It had a password system. I remember we just had passwords all over the place, and I don't know why I loved it, but I just really enjoyed this game, so I had to buy it later.
I think the reason we probably liked that game is because we got Game Boy, like, because Game Boys were like pretty much our only consoles, really.
Yeah, so we didn't know.
Because we only got games every once in a while, it would be like, if something caught our interest, we would get it, but it wouldn't necessarily be a good game. So it's like Gex.
We knew Gex was cool, but then like, it was like, oh.
In reality, we wanted to be playing like 3D Gex.
Right, like N64 Gex, which everyone else was playing.
But we had that version, so it was like, well, it's Gex, so who cares? And it's not even like Gex was like a popular game. It was just something that...
And I remembered another game. I also had the second Gex, Gex Entered the Gecko, which was the second one on Game Boy. I think I got it way later because I liked Gex 3 so much, and I barely played it, and it like broke.
Yeah,
I think I got it wet or something.
I feel like I played
like
it
malfunctioned. But that one was pretty good as well. I think it's pretty similar.
The thing that was cool about that was like that game and like Gex 3 and Deep Undercover Gecko, they were like similar styles of games.
They were almost the same game.
Because sometimes with like Game Boy games, it's like they can't port stuff weird, or they like just decide to do something wacky with it, and sometimes sequels aren't
right because obviously these Gex are not the 3D Gex, like that's not what they got, but they did their own thing, and they're, you know, I wouldn't say they're great games, but definitely if you're interested in doing a handheld Gex, like give it a try. Like they're pretty interesting. And then two more of note, I had Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 on Game Boy Color, which played it a lot. Don't really remember too much about it.
I remember quite a bit about it.
Okay,
it wasn't like a horrible game. It had very similar arcadey aspects as regular 3D games do, where like, you know, you have a certain amount of objectives you have to do. You could still get scores and stuff like that, but it was kind of like a side-scrolling skateboard game.
You had to be.
So it's like, it was still cool, but obviously it's not the same feeling as like feeling like you're skateboarding around and stuff. But it was still, it was similar in concept to the Tony Hawk games.
Yeah, and I know you eventually got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 on Game Boy Color, right? I'm pretty sure you did.
3 on Color, yeah, it was.
And I can't remember which one it was, but there was one where, it's a side-scroller, but then when you hit the vert ramp, you could like turn around, or like, I don't remember if that was in both of them.
That's 3.
Yeah, I remember that was confusing.
That one was a little weird. That one I did not like as much. And it's like, it's one of those games, I remember one of my friends had it too. You play it because you don't have the systems. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 had more of like a cartoony style to it, where like, you could still pick the skaters and stuff, but they kind of looked like, you know, it'd be like an animated cartoon. Where the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 was like, you're almost like a stick figure looking.
I think they like tried to make it realistic, but it was just so bad because it just
they were kind of like trying to do like an isometric thing, because when the Tony Hawk games came out for the Game Boy Advance, when that eventually came out, those were almost like trying to mimic the 3D-ness.
Yeah, that's when they got really bad, I think.
I don't know if they were necessarily bad. Like, it was cool to see on a handheld at the time, because even though it wasn't completely 3D, it was still like trying to be like the 3D games, and it was like the same levels kind of, I think. I've probably only played those like handful of times, like
I think Nick had like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 on Game Boy Advance or something. Another one which I totally forgot about, but this isn't our childhood copy, but Pokemon Pinball Game Boy Color. That was definitely one that we played a lot. Did we play our cousin's version of this first before? No. I don't remember the story behind this at all, at where we got it.
I got it for my birthday.
So I wonder when that would be. Let's see, 99. So maybe the next year.
Yeah, because it's for Game Boy Color, so it was probably like the year after Christmas that we got our Game Boy Colors. Yeah, that game was really cool. Just because
it's still really fun.
In terms of pinball games, like any love that I have for pinball pretty much comes from like the Windows 95.
Yep. Windows pinball that came on the
space, like the astronaut one. That was fun, but like I think in order for pinball to be exciting for me, like I have to do like you have to be able to like do cool stuff or go to, you know, different cool stages or whatever. But in Pokemon,
Yeah, it was so
Pinball,
focused on just catching the Pokemon,
Right.
but it was still cool.
Well, no,
Yeah.
I'm saying Pokemon Pinball's version of that was you could actually catch Pokemon.
Right.
If you hit like a certain amount of bumpers, like Pokemons would appear,
And then you would try to
appear,
catch them. Yeah.
and you could try to catch them, and that was always really cool. And then you want to catch all the Pokemon in that one, even though it's just pinball and it's basically the same two boards. The whole game is still pretty
Yeah,
fun.
I was gonna say I don't think there's that many boards, and we never got the Game Boy Advance one, but that one was even better, I think, as far as like just upgrading all the different elements of it. But other Game Boy Color, you had a Tomb Raider game.
I had a Tomb Raider game, which was like, I think it's
Horrible.
called Tomb Raider Adventure. It's not horrible. It's like almost like Prince of Persia style, or like old PC Prince of Persia, where you have to like, you have like slow jumps and you have to like time jumps perfectly, where you have to like make long jumps or that type of a thing. And you had guns, and it's basically like an adventure game. And obviously you didn't play it very much. I played it because it was mine, and I like didn't have any other games to play, and it was fun, but it was very, you know, I think I might have looked up guides for it, or I don't know if we had that ability back then, but I was just like, so I remember I would get stuck and like frustrated a lot.
I
just trying to
remember
figure out
watching
what to
you, and
do.
I remember trying to play it myself, and I don't think I could do a single
Mm-hmm.
thing in that game because it was really confusing. I think that's pretty much it. The next thing we really got after that is, well, we got Game Boy Advance, and we started playing some PlayStation 1, but we
Right.
played PlayStation 1 when PlayStation 2 had almost come out, or if not, had already come
I'm pretty
out.
sure PS2 is already out. Or
No, I'm
close
saying
to
the
that.
first time we ever played it might have been before.
Right.
But yeah, we didn't own a PS1 until PS2 had already come out. So at that point, we were going to like EB Games, and we were just buying like whatever game we wanted because the whole PlayStation 1 library was already out. So we were just buying like whatever was there. And I'll say, so we got our PlayStation 1 from like a family friend, and they had Tekken 2 and Tekken 3. So those were like our first games on there. Both pretty fun games. I'm trying to remember like the first game. I mean, I went out and bought Marvel vs. Capcom. I know that from EB Games. I think I paid $20, and I played that a bunch. And that obviously like shows I still love Marvel vs. Capcom even today. Got the arcade cabinet of the original, which is really cool to have. Yeah, it's over there. If you've seen my other video, you know that I have it. And I do still have my childhood copy of Marvel vs. Capcom. I'm trying to remember, you rented Mega Man Legends from Blockbuster, and then you bought it
Yes.
afterwards. Which we used to be able to do. Some people don't remember that, but we used to do that sometimes.
Did they have that option? You could just, if you wanted to, you could buy it like the rentable version of the game.
No, I think it was like certain ones you could purchase, and they would like have a
Right.
specific price.
and they just happened to have that one.
right. Like I think there was like literally like a bin, and you would go through
Well,
the bin
I think
and
it
be
was
like, what do
also
they have
like
to
it
buy?
was that was literally like the end of Blockbuster. I feel like
It could have
They
been
were
getting
as close
close,
to the end.
getting close. Yeah, I will say too, for PlayStation, a lot of our games were like Nick's friends' games that we borrowed. Like we borrowed Final Fantasy VII, we borrowed Final Fantasy VIII. Like your friend Aaron or Corey, like we would basically just borrow all their games, and that's how we played.
And essentially,
most
the
of stuff.
PS1 that we did get was essentially
Yeah.
given to us, but it was like a hand-me-down. Like, that's pretty much...
Right, and that's what's funny, because that's what it took, like, getting our parents to actually get us the console, was, like, way later, and basically forced our parents into accepting it from somebody else. So it kind of makes sense. So a lot of our PlayStation games were just, like, at the time, PlayStation 2 was out, so all our friends were just, like, letting us borrow their PlayStation 1 games, because they just didn't care about them anymore. They were too busy playing Final Fantasy X or something. So I'm trying to think of anything else. So we really enjoyed Mega Man Legends, so much so that I went out and bought Mega Man Legends 2, which I struggled with it for a long time. Still haven't completed it. It's on my
still
list.
have it, right?
I still have it. And I'm trying to look at the list. Oh yeah, my dad bought me some Galaga game. I played it like 3 times. It was okay.
not a
It was
bad
it was
game.
kind of interesting, but it just wasn't
You
for
don't
me.
still have that?
No, I have that.
Yeah.
I have that too. I'm trying to look at the PlayStation stuff. Oh, Legend of Dragoon.
Yeah.
I went to Best Buy.
I thought you got Legend of Dragoon
Or maybe
from
it was Circuit
Blockbuster
City.
as well.
No. I think it was actually Best Buy. I went to Best Buy. I looked at the RPG section. I was gonna like buy Final Fantasy VII, I think, but I was like, no, I already played that. And I saw Legend of Dragoon, and I'm like, oh, this looks similar. And it was greatest hits because by then everything was greatest hits because we were like at the end of the life cycle. Pick that up. That's one of my favorite RPGs, which I need to get back to and play again.
If we ever had PS1 games, it was like pretty random because PS1 was pretty much phased out at that point in terms of what you could like buy in stores for it. When I was in college, I ordered Silent Hill 1 for PS1, and I don't remember how I played it, or I feel like no, because the PS2 could play PS1, right? The PS2 we have currently does not play them very well anymore. But I believe I played Silent Hill 1 on my PS2.
No, but I mean, do you remember any other ones at that time? We borrowed a lot of stuff. We borrowed Digimon World from Nick's friend Aaron. Very fun game. We borrowed Final Fantasy Tactics, which ended up becoming like one of my favorite games. And I played that a ton until I got stuck at a certain point.
PS1 things that I remember is it was like fighting games. We had... I don't know. I was talking about.
Oh, Soul Blade. We had Soul Blade.
So we had Soul Blade, which is like precursor to Soul Calibur, which not a lot of people know about.
And it's good.
Everyone just know. Yeah, it's pretty good. And like Tekken 2 and Tekken 3. That's like the majority.
We really only owned like 7 or 8 games that were actually ours, because that's pretty much all of them.
The big one is, we already kind of talked about this series, would be Tony Hawk 2. I think I bought that from Blockbuster, and like I had already played it at my friend's house like a lot, like in elementary school, and then I finally got it myself, and I played a ton of that. I played a ton of Tony Hawk 3 that we rented from Blockbuster a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't even remember you owning 2, but I definitely remember we played 3 a lot, and that was probably like the PlayStation game I played the most, because like literally everybody had those games. Right. So I remember going to like a friend's house and playing it, and going somewhere else and playing it.
Wait, you played 3 the most?
No, 2.
Right, 2.
Yeah. But some people had 3 too. You know what I mean? Like, also. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for that. And then...
I remember 3 being like... I remember liking it, but I remember in terms of like 2, I could like do some of the objectives and stuff. And 3, I was like, what the... How do I have to go to the top of this roof, and then I have to grind across like a...
I don't even really remember 3. I remember 2, definitely. And I remember 1 because of the N64 version, mostly, that people had. Then for our PlayStation 2, we also bought we bought that used off your friend. And even that, I think, was the Slim already out?
Probably.
I think the Slim was already out. So even PS2, we jumped in again, like pretty much at the end of the console's life. And I think Chaos Legion was the first game you got. Chaos Legion, Capcom game.
I don't like it.
I don't even know how to explain it.
It's like Devil May Cry.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe Devil May Cry.
It uses some weird system where you have like not ghosts, but like
spirits or something.
Spirit like knights that come, but it's like a power that you can use. Like you have like a certain type of mana for it, and you can lose it, but is like they never have pickups in the game. So like, and they're super strong, and the game was hard. So like you would use them to get past certain points, but then you'd never be able to refill it to use them again, and then it was just hard. And it was just, I mean, I also haven't played it since I like first got it, because so maybe I'm definitely better at video games now.
Yeah, but I remember it was ridiculously hard. We just couldn't figure it out. And I remember you also bought the bouncer, and it didn't work, and you were like so mad.
It wasn't that it didn't work, it's that it worked, and then you get to the end of the first level and it froze.
Yeah, but that means the game.
I tried it like a million times. I'm like, all right, this time it's gonna get past that part.
But isn't that funny? As a kid, you're like, yeah, like even whatever we paid for it, you were like, I gotta get my money's worth. Like, I gotta keep trying. It's like, instead of just getting a different one.
That was back in like EB Games days.
Yeah,
and that was before they would be like, oh, you want a protection plan or whatever. So I mean, not that I would have bought it anyway.
Yeah, I will say like we had a lot of PS2 games as well, but I would say the majority of them were not bought like new, not necessarily not bought new, but they were like budget titles that we had bought because we had access to like the whole library. Right. So we went out and bought like things that we thought were cool. Well, we did play Guitar Hero. So we had Guitar Hero 2 and 3 on PS2. We had Rocks the 80s, which is my favorite Guitar Hero. I went out and bought Shadow of the Colossus when it was already greatest hits. That's one of my favorites. We had SSX on Tour, which we had a demo disc of. That's a really good game. Very Tony Hawk-esque, but snowboarding. Really good soundtrack. It's got like the Hives. It's got like Billy Idol. You bought me this game called Under the Skin, which is a Capcom game, and it's really weird. And he wanted it, so he bought it for me for Christmas. And I was so mad at him, honestly, because I didn't want it at all. Maybe I'll put some footage.
But you
here.
know
It's
what?
really
Now
weird.
you got a nice obscure game story to tell about it. So.
On this podcast,
Right.
we had Ultimate Alliance. Oh, right, and Mega Man, or not Mega Man Legends, X-Men Legends, and I think we
X-Men
rented
Legends.
X-Men Legends 2. Or do you have 2?
Never played the first one. At least I didn't. don't know
I
about
did.
you.
I
Where
did.
did you play the first
Mike
one?
Torson.
I didn't play the first one, but I got the second one. Like had just came out, and I got that for my birthday one year, and I beat that. I like.
That game is really fun.
But going back and playing it, it's still good, but it's like they pretty much perfected the.
Yeah, that
By,
genre
like-
came a long way.
Right.
That's
And
like the old
it's
school
cool
like gauntlet dungeon crawler kind of mechanic.
It's a little dated, at least the graphics are for sure. But it's still a good game at its core, I guess I would say. But that was like also the precursor for Ultimate Alliance and stuff like that.
Yeah, I played a lot of Marvel Ultimate Alliance back in the day for sure. Because then when I got my 360, I also got that again for some reason. So I played it again. Again, we rented or borrowed a lot of games. I know you borrowed Final Fantasy X at a point. I borrowed Final Fantasy 12 from my friend Matt. I enjoyed that game a lot at the time. I'm trying to think of anything else on PS2. Oh, I got a Shaman King game.
PS2, yeah.
That was really cool. It was like a strategy RPG that also had like a fighting game in it, which was super interesting.
I had Mercenaries.
Oh yeah,
I thought it
Mercenaries
was cool because pretty much, even though we had a PS2 and we could get games for it, I was not old enough to buy M-rated games, and my parents definitely wouldn't do it. So I had Mercenaries, and that was rated teen, but it was like, I felt like all
it
my
was,
friends
yeah.
and stuff were like playing GTA, but I felt they played Mercenaries too, and I felt like it was open world, so it's like GTA or whatever.
And you would like blow stuff up. It wasn't
Right.
like it was like a kid's game. Yeah.
But that game, I'd have to go back and play it, but I just remember never being able to know what to do in that game. Like, I think I like couldn't figure out, like, I'm like, there's got to be a main mission I have to go to or do something, and then like I could never figure out where it was, and it was just like a big open world, and I'm like, am I just like missing it every time I couldn't figure out what to do in the game, so I just stopped playing it. But
I do remember having a lot of fun with it, just us running around and blowing stuff up though. And
yeah, it was cool because it was like
cool.
North Korea and South Korea, and there's different factions going around, and they'd have like bases and camps, and you just kind of like go around, and it would just kind of like reset itself unless you were doing like the missions and the story. So it's at the end of the day, there's pretty much only so much you could do in it.
You also had the DC Heroes, which was basically Ultimate Alliance, but for DC characters. That one was pretty good as well.
That was a fun game. I actually like that
Yeah.
better than, like, looking back at it, I like that better than X-Men Legends.
I think so too. Because that one was way later released.
It also had like a
few years
cooler,
later.
like in X-Men Legends 2, like you could change your skin, but you'd have to like, I think you had to level people up to get different skins maybe, or like there wasn't as many, or I don't know. I think BioWare did the DC Heroes one.
Really? I don't know.
So there
but
was
that
more
would
like
make sense.
RPG elements in.
Yeah,
as
very
well.
good game. I don't hear anyone ever talking about it. Another one that we're forgetting is we definitely borrowed Kingdom Hearts from your friend Corey, and I bought Kingdom Hearts 2 the day it came out, and I still own that copy as well. Played that game a ton. I can't believe I even forgot about it.
Kingdom Hearts 2 is probably the best Kingdom Hearts.
I think it probably is too, but I hate Roxas's part in the beginning. I played it like 50 times, and sometimes by the time I'd finish that part, I'd be like, I don't feel
Why
like
did you
playing
play
this
it
game
50
anymore.
times though?
I feel like I'd always want to restart the game, and then I'd always get to that part, and I would just be like, oh, and the only other thing I want to mention,
Did you ever like beat and play Kingdom Hearts 1?
I did later because I have the collection on PS3, but I don't think I did originally because I think you mostly played it. The other two I'll mention, you borrowed Dragon Quest VIII, which is a good game. I remember watching you playing it and being like, this looks awesome, but I never played it.
Oh, well, that's actually funny because, like, now I feel like Dragon Quest, to me, is, like, the best RPG if you just want to, like, play an RPG. And,
It
like,
is, I think,
a
too.
mindless RPG, and you just want to grind and, you know, do whatever in the background.
Nobody really, like, knew about it. It was
that's-
always super underground.
That's
in the
true, but
beginning.
I'm talking more in terms of I had played it and I was like, because everyone was used to like Final Fantasy games in terms of RPGs, and the story was just like so basic to me, and like so like, and then like I remember I got to maybe like the first boss or something, and just getting like wrecked because I didn't realize
you didn't grind nearly enough.
No,
yeah.
I didn't, and I was just like, well, this is trash. Like it doesn't even have. It's like a cutesy thing, and it doesn't even have like that good of a story. It's not like that, and I just didn't play it. And then for whatever reason, years later, I like went back. I was like, oh, maybe I'll try it again. Because I realized like I played other RPGs and stuff, and had been like, oh, I might have to actually like level up a little bit.
Right. Yeah, I think Dragon Quest is the one series that I'm really kicking myself that I didn't get into earlier. Because even that, like, I might have played like a very small amount of 8, never touched another one until I got to basically Dragon Quest 11. Oh, I played like a very small amount of Dragon Quest 9 on DS, and I don't know why I stopped playing it. And then I played Dragon Quest 11, and now I'm like, wow, I wish I had played every single one because they're really good.
Well, I feel like if you were to play a Dragon Quest, the first one, you shouldn't play it on a handheld first, because that is also like, on a handheld you're looking for like something to make the experience more than just like
grinding an RPG.
Right.
I will say too, like, I got a little bit off put by 9 because the main character is not like a set character.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That
9, you're like
me a lot.
You're just like a custom character,
right?
Basically.
And I remember again, it might have been like a little bit of an RPG snob of me at the time, but I was like, I don't like that the main character isn't really like a defined person with a defined
That's like
backstory.
every Dragon Quest game, though.
No, they all have defined characters and names. But anyway, the only other game I'll mention too is I think I got this one pretty late as well. I think I got it from Best Buy or maybe Circuit City back. Rest in peace, Circuit City. Matrix Path of Neo, which is actually a pretty fun game, and I beat it. And a lot of pretty much all the other Matrix games were trash, and this one was actually pretty cool. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it was an action game. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it was pretty fun. It's definitely worth looking into if you like Matrix stuff. I think that was pretty much all the PS2, and I think that is going to be the end of this podcast episode. We'll probably have to do a follow-up episode at some point. We kind of skipped right over Game Boy Advance, so we'll probably have to go back to that. But we're kind of running out of stuff because in a little bit longer where we have separated and it's not really our childhood anymore, but we do need to cover Game Boy Advance.